Wistoria Wand and Sword may potentially be the biggest surprise of the summer 2024 anime season. I had my eye on quite a few anime this season, but Wistoria certainly wasn't among them. But boy am I glad that people were really hyping this one up and were able to convince me to check it out. Wistoria Wand and Sword follows Will Surfert, a magicless boy in a world ruled by magic. He attends the regarded magical academy for mages in the hope of one day attending the large one-light tower in the middle of the city so that he can keep his promise to his childhood friend, Elfie. This tower is the home of the Magia Vanda, the 5 most powerful mages, a title passed down the generations after the original 5 warded off invaders and cast a protective spell around the city, creating this dome that also acts as a sky that the citizens look up to every day. Elfie is one of the current Magia Vandas, and if Will ever hopes to see her again, then he'll have to work hard and gain enough points to do so. Whilst Will may not have access to any magic, all is not yet lost. See, because Will is swole. With the power of muscle on his side, Will is able to take up the sword and spends his days traversing the dungeons in hopes of slaying monsters, getting points for doing so, and once again seeing his beloved Elfie. Do you get the title of the anime now? Wistoria, Wand and Sword? Will is clearly the sword, and Elfie is most likely the wand, although the final episode of the season may imply something slightly different. Now, if you were listening to my brief synopsis, then the gist of this show may remind you of certain other anime, in particular Black Clover. What with Asta being this magicless boy in a world ruled by magic who aims at becoming the Wizard King, all whilst using his muscles and a sword to beat his enemies. Or for being a little more accurate, this show is kind of like a far more serious version of Mashle, Magic and Muscles. This sense of maybe the story and plot being a little generic is the only real major negative that I've seen people levy against this series, because this show seems to have taken elements from many other stories, both within and outside of the anime medium. I have seen quite a few people refer to this as the Harry Potter anime. Essentially, the argument is that Wistoria is lacking in its own identity. Now for me, the uniqueness and creativity of a story or its characters is never as important as the execution of that story and its characters. We've all seen things with great ideas and creative moments, but the execution hasn't been there, and they've just instead ended up as wasted potential. Wistoria Wand and Sword is the opposite of that. You've definitely seen many things like Wistoria, but you've not seen many things with this level of polish. And just because it isn't doing a ton of new things, doesn't mean that this isn't an interesting show. From my brief little blurb on this story, you can already see the world building present in this anime. Elements of the narrative and world might be repackaged and repurposed from other shows, but the world is still an engrossing one that you will love learning more about. This show is constantly introducing new components to further hook the viewer in. For example, the relationships between the different races in this world. This is a fantasy world, so on top of the human mages, you also have these elves and these dwarves. And there is a hierarchy present between the races, with the dwarves very clearly on the bottom of the pile due to their inability to use magic, which plays into the bullying that Will faces on the daily, as he is a no-talent laggard who is no better than a dwarf. This anime loves to continuously build up its world, but it's always wise to never share too much information with you at once, and it leads to your mind swilling with many questions. You want to know what's going on in this world, about its history, about the threat outside the dome, and about the characters in this story. This show sinks its hooks into you and refuses to ever let go. This anime is more than just its animation, and its animation is fantastic, by the way. It is funny that this series is getting a lot of comparisons to Black Clover, because the director of this series, Tatsuya Yoshihara, is probably best known for being the director of that anime. He was also the action director for Chainsaw Man, which is why the action scenes in Wistoria are so breathtaking. He had clearly taken his experiences from working on both of those anime and employed them to great effect here, because this show may have the best direction that I've seen in an anime all year, and the cinematography is genuinely incredible too. There are some shots in this anime where nothing exciting is happening. A character might just be stood next to a wall or reading from their textbook, but due to the framing and composition of the shot, you can't help but feel yourself get drawn into the scene. Even the most mundane of moments have had a lot of life and high quality injected into them. And if the rumour and general belief that Tatsuya Yoshihara is the most likely guy to be replacing Chainsaw Man's original director, Ryu Nakamura, for the upcoming Chainsaw Man film, then I believe that film is likely to be in very safe hands. If you have heard of this anime, then it is most likely due to the mind-blowing good animation on display. The animation and fight scenes present in this show's first episode is the sort of thing that most other anime would reserve for their final episode. We get the big final boss, sakuga moment in episode 1, and episode 2, and episode 3, and episode 4, and I'm sure you get the gist. But just like the direction and cinematography, this series isn't content with its big moments being the only parts of the anime afforded high quality. There are so many quieter moments, whether it be a character just casting a small spell or someone opening a textbook. Even moments like this are graced with truly stunning animation, and it was really shocking to me given which studios were animating this series. I was expecting to learn that this was the next anime from MAPPA or Madhouse or Bones or even something like Kinema Citrus, but no, this is actually a co-production between two studios. The first being Actas, which I'd actually never heard of before. They're a studio who haven't made too many memorable shows, they're probably best known for animating the Girls on Panzer series, and the other is Bandai Namco Pictures, who I was familiar with due to them being the studio that took over from Sunrise for one of the greatest anime ever made, Gintama, and also animating other works like Welcome to Demon School Aruma-kun and Tiger and Bunny Season 2. However, despite my familiarity, I would never expected this studio to be capable of pulling off what they did with Wistoria. This is easily both studios' best work when it comes to animation, and had it not been for Cloverworks' The Elusive Samurai, then I would have said that Wistoria Wand and Sword easily had the best animation of the season, although I have heard that Makeine also features some great animation too. Before anyone recommends that anime to me, I do want you to know that I've already decided to watch it. It was just that by the time I heard about it, most of the episodes had already released, and I just decided to wait for the whole series to air. But back to Wistoria. This show has great animation, direction and cinematography, but I refute the claim that this anime is carried by those elements. This series does have a compelling story with great characters. The characters may all fall into archetypes that you've seen before, just like segments of the story does, but that doesn't mean that they aren't fun and or likeable characters. You'll even be invested in the arseholes. Will, in my opinion, is a good protagonist. This show may get comparisons to Black Clover due to the similarities of the protagonist's situations, but Will's personality is the complete opposite of Asta's. He is much more reserved, a symptom of his constant bullying, and chooses to initially rely on himself when it comes to crawling these dungeons. However, he is kind. He may resent the people around him for how they've treated him, but he doesn't hate them or wish ill will upon them. In fact, whenever it's necessary, he does extend a helping hand to them, even if they do swat it away in defiance. It's been a lot of fun watching as the characters around Will slowly change their opinion of him, seeing how he has honed himself and trained to be the best possible sword that he can be. Will has tried so hard and successfully improved himself that even those who once looked down upon him are forced to accept him and the fact that he is now stronger than them. But like I said, Will always offer a helping hand, and actually tries to help the others become better too. He might not be the deepest of characters, at least right now, but he is very likeable and a very easy character to root for. And I've got to give massive props to Will's voice actor, Kohei Amazaki. It took me the entire season to realise that Will shared a voice with Masachika, the protagonist of Alia, sometimes hides her feelings in Russian. Even when you notice that the two characters sound the same, they still end up feeling completely different due to the VA's inflection and performance. I wonder how many other people were able to notice this. However, I doubt anyone was able to pick up on the even more surprising piece of voice acting in this show. Have a listen to Julius speak.
こんな屈辱久々だな。誰に喧嘩を売ったのか分かっているんだろうな。Mimosa!
Okay, any ideas as to who else this guy plays? No? Well, here's the answer.
よくわからねえが俺も幽霊みてえになったわけか。俺の体に入れば元通りに。いや待てよ、幽霊同士なら攻撃当たるじゃねえか。
If any of you said Natsu, then you're lying to me. Isn't that impressive though? The two characters both sound nothing alike and act nothing like each other either. That is some range that this guy has. Outside of Will and Julius, there are some other memorable characters from this season, most notably Colette and Sion. Elfie is currently more of a goal than a character, but the brief glimpses we get of her do suggest that she'll be a very entertaining presence when she does eventually end up playing a large part in the series. Elfie's relegation to a background character this season is likely why I ended up really liking Colette. She's very much in love with Will, and I greatly appreciated that she wasn't tsundere about it at all. She actively does try to spend time with Will and to become more than just friends with him. She's also extremely useful in battle and is the one of a student that actually supports Will and treats him with kindness. I'm going to be honest with you, right now, I'm shipping the two of them. I doubt Will end up choosing Colette over Elfie, but Bleach taught me that sometimes the main character does choose the girl you weren't expecting him to. In fact, with Colette's existence, we can finally complete the Holy Ginger Trinity. Guys, I think I might have a type. Better to be attracted to this archetype than the anime girls who hit the main character for no reason. Sion is the enemy bully turned rival turned hopefully friend turned lover? Sion is a ball of anger, so of course he has the power of fire. Like a lot of the supporting characters, he can relate to Will in a way that he despises. He feels weak and casted aside and looked down upon. But what he hates more than anything is seeing Will inadvertently do the same to him. Will is so laser focused on his own goal that at times he can ignore those around him, and that frustrates Sion. He wants Will to notice him and recognise his power. He can accept not being the strongest mage ever, but he can't accept Will not even noticing his existence. And so we watch as Sion begins to improve himself and trains to become someone that no one could ever ignore. I'm interested to see where Sion's character journey takes him and how strong he ends up becoming. Now a certain question may be forming in your mind. Why this show? Why was it this anime that received such a strong adaptation? Because even the soundtrack for this anime is great. With the music being composed by Yuki Hayashi, the man responsible for the incredible music in shows like My Hero Academia and Haikyuu. They assembled the A-team for this series. This is a real who's who of people working on this anime. So, why? Well, it's likely because this is the next work from Fujino Amori, the man who created Is It Wrong to Pick Up Girls in a Dungeon, or Danmachi, as everyone who realises how bad that title is, calls it. I've never watched Danmachi, but apparently it's pretty good. It's clearly very popular, given the fact that the anime is about to air its 5th season, so I'm assuming that the people behind the scenes were likely anticipating a similar success story with Wistoria and preemptively made sure to give it as strong of an adaptation as they could. And I'm really glad that they did, because Wistoria is easily one of my favourite anime from this year. It is arguably the strongest cinematography of the year, beautiful animation, and likeable characters with an engaging plot. You may argue that it's like this show, or even that one, but given the strong execution of this anime, I wouldn't be surprised if you start to see people recommending this series over the shows that inspired it. Hopefully the quick announcement of the 2nd season is a sign that there is a lot of faith in this anime, and that we'll get a lot more from Wistoria in the coming years. But for now, this will have to do for today. What did you think about Wistoria Wand and Swords? Did you like it? Have you even seen it? Let me know your thoughts about this anime down in the comments below, and whilst you're down there, do be sure to hit the like button. It significantly boosts this video in the YouTube algorithm and really helps me out. And if you're feeling especially generous, then do consider subscribing. I would love to have you as a regular viewer. But once again, thank you so much for watching this video, I really appreciate it, and I do hope to see you in the next one. Bye bye!